Episode 4. Paul looked at the list of names that were written on the note. He had picked up Gabrielle from the clinic, and they had gone to Mass, and Sandra had joined them outside. They were standing next to his car in the church car park where Gabrielle had filled them in. It just feels like a wild goose chase. I mean, it's been 27 years. Some of the people here may be unreachable for various reasons. Sandra felt irritated with him. All through her friend's narrative, he had been anything but supportive, like he did not want her to find out or be inconvenienced by his girlfriend's problem. She bit her tongue, not wanting to distress Gabrielle any further. But if he kept talking, he would get a well-deserved answer from her, one that would take him a very long time to erase from his memory. I am going to wait for my father to be discharged, and then I'll go to Benin City and try to track down as many people that knew my mother as I can. I can't believe I have an aunt and grandparents that have been searching for me. Sandra smiled at her. The hope in her eyes was so endearing. Gabrielle hardly ever showed any weakness. It felt like she always had to be strong, and there was a wall that she had unknowingly put up, separating her from the rest of the world. She had done so much for Sandra during the dark days, when all she had wanted to do was to be in bed and wait for the next day to come, when hopefully the pain would be over. Gabrielle had gotten into bed with her, not saying a word, but making sure she ate and that she was never alone. When she left once again for Nigeria, shortly afterwards, Sandra packed her bags and did the same, and now she could finally be by her side and give her the same kind of support that she had received. Yes, but what's the plan? Close shop indefinitely as you chase after something when you have no idea what the outcome will be? Your new collection has a due date. I'm sorry to be the voice of reason, but perhaps you need to take a step back and think about what you really want to do, Paul advised. You're not being the voice of reason. You're being a very negative voice, a voice that needs to be silenced. Paul, don't worry. Gabrielle does not require you to leave everything and go with her. That's why she has me. I am owed a good number of days off by my company, and I will accompany her to Benin. Worry not. You can go about your business. Gabrielle's in good hands. It's not that, Paul said. You hear of so many things happening, and I can't be there. I'd really rather you waited. No, she's not waiting. Nothing will happen to us. Don't people live in Benin City and go about their business? This is priority, and in case you haven't noticed, all the GI customers will wait for however long it takes to get their hands on the new collection. There's a waiting list. Have you even read the blog or the company's social media pages? Sandra looked at him triumphantly, willing him to keep speaking, but he wisely nodded in acceptance, and Gabrielle held his hand, hoping he would understand. For the life of her, she did not comprehend what she was doing with that man. Was it a church thing, because she had met him there? It wasn't that her opinion of Alexander Jacobs was any better, considering his reputation with women. But at least he had shown more concern, and one had to have the right character. His faith and beliefs would hopefully evolve with time to be what her friend wanted. But how could someone with an attitude problem like Paul's even be under consideration? She eyed him with intense disapproval that she knew would be impossible even for him to miss. So, where can I take you ladies? Gabrielle, you haven't eaten properly. Can I interest you both in dinner? No, thank you. I need to go to the office and keep going through the emails, and I have to write my aunt. I need to be settled to do that. Rain check? Oh, but I can't make pancakes in your office, and you know it's a tradition we never miss. Can't you take the laptop to mine and continue looking there? Sandra asked. I am really not hungry, and I find the quiet of the empty office helpful, Gabrielle replied. Sandra eyed her friend and accepted, as she thought that she would go home and bring the pancakes to her anyway. No need to waste valuable energy arguing. She got into her car and, switching on her mobile, read a message from Alexander Jacobs asking if everything was all right, as Gabrielle had not replied to his message. She's shaking up. Her father just had a stroke, and she insists on going back to her office to continue looking through emails. I am going home to make something to eat and take back to her, Sandra wrote. Why don't you give me your address and I'll come and pick you? I can take you there in an hour. I'd like to see her and help in any way I can, Alex replied. Sandra considered it. She wanted to study Alexander at close quarters and gauge his intentions. Something about keeping your enemies close. She texted him her address. Warm pancakes were not as good as hot ones, but better than none. The security guard let them in, and they found Gabrielle busy staring at a computer screen. If she was surprised to see Alexander, she hid it well. Sandra observed her friend. She looked tired, which was to be expected after not having slept the previous night. Any news on your dad? The man asked, sitting in the chair across from her. I spoke to Deborah, who unwillingly and grudgingly revealed that he's stable, but added that my presence was not needed tonight, as I seemed to perturb him. Apparently, I am now openly a persona non grata. Does that bother you? Sandra asked. Gabrielle paused to consider her reply, and for the first time since everything happened, let out a laugh. Actually, no. She's just putting into words how she has always made me feel. I even appreciate her sincerity. What's in the cooler? I suddenly feel hungry. I've gone through a year of emails and there's 2 more to go. We don't keep them eternally. You didn't think I would actually let you off Pancake Day, did you? Here they are. Syrup and all the necessary additions. I'll set them in the workers' lounge, and you'd best not keep me waiting. Sandra left to do as she said she would, and was about to yell out for them when both Gabrielle and Alex appeared. So, what's the plan? Gabrielle has filled me in, using very short sentences, I must say, Alex asked. I was reading, and you kept interrupting me. Anyway, being a woman, I am capable of doing 2 things at the same time. So you got your answers, she joked. And Sandra thought not for the first time just how cute their children would be. When this was over, she would have to work on getting Paul out of the picture if Alex proved to be the better candidate. Or just get him out of the picture anyhow. After doing justice to Sandra's pancakes, I will go and write my aunt and continue going through the emails in case my mother tried to contact me. Would your staff not have alerted you if that had been the case? I mean, a long-lost mother contacting you would definitely not be filed or eliminated. It would be brought to your attention immediately, Sandra said. I know, but I'm thinking that given the circumstances of her departure, maybe she didn't even sign her name, but just wanted to open a communication channel. Anyway, I spoke to the doctor before leaving, and he said my father had to take things easy and watch his diet and stress levels. But he predicted a full recovery. As soon as he's sent home, I'll be going to Benin to retrace the steps of what happened 27 years ago. And I'm going with her, Sandra informed Alex. I will be going to the house we lived in, visiting her old school, contacting her sister, friends. Somebody must have seen the person she was meeting in secret. I will discover the truth. We will. I have watched so many suspense series and have picked up some really interesting methods of investigation that will be of great help in tracking her down, Sandra said, and saw Alex frown. My private jet is at your disposal, he said. Oh, that wouldn't be necessary. We can travel commercial or by road. Gabrielle, the man wants to help, so let him, Sandra said. She has this thing of not accepting gifts from men that I obviously don't. We'll get there earlier and avoid the airport waits and possible cancellations. And no, I'm not traveling by road. Alex, we accept. Just tell me when and I'll make the necessary arrangements. I have to leave you ladies now. I have an appointment. Sandra will be in touch, I hope. I'll see you out, she replied as Gabrielle thanked him for coming. Once out of earshot, she stopped him. Alexander Jacobs. I might not think Paul is the perfect match for Gabrielle, but he's a good man. If you look past the fact that he can't see beyond what he wants, and that I find him incredibly boring. But that does not mean that I think that you're a better option. I watched your friends and you at the charity event. The jokes you made, girls coming up to you. What exactly are you playing at? Why do you assume it's a game? He asked her, raising an eyebrow. If only I had been born yesterday, then it would be way easier to deceive me. Try again. She folded her arms and waited. It's not. I really like her. I didn't expect to, but I do. And I worry about this trip. That it might not be as simple as you think, or that there will not be healing at the end of it. Why do you think I'm going with her? Either way, I warn you. Stay away if your intentions are not sincere. That woman has gone through enough to last a lifetime. If this is some kind of dare between your rich, bored friends and you, best you find something else to do with your time. With those words, she turned around, leaving Alex to find his own way out. Gabrielle was back in her office, looking through the emails, and Sandra decided to lie down on the couch to keep her company, especially as her ride had just left. She would wait until her friend was good and ready to leave, even if it was the next morning. It wasn't the next morning, but 4 a.m., when she felt someone shaking her. Gabrielle's excited but tired face was peering down at her, saying something that she had to repeat a number of times until she was fully awake and able to assimilate any form of information. I said, I think I found something from October last year. Come and read it. Sandra wasn't given much of a choice as she was dragged by her hand towards the computer. It was a short email. There was no sender name anywhere in the text. She rubbed her eyes and sat down to read it. Good morning. I came across an article listing successful Nigerian entrepreneurs, and your name was there. Your company initials did not mean anything to me until I saw whose daughter you are. I knew you as a child, but sadly I lost contact due to circumstances beyond my control. But not a day goes by that I do not think of you or wonder what you have been up to. Now I know, and I needed to tell you just how incredibly proud I am of you. Je t'aime, mon amour. It's her! I tell you, it's her! It could be anyone, Sandra replied, reading the email again. It is her! Look at how she signed off in French. Look at this letter. It's the same style. I am going to call Alex so his friend can trace the IP. Yes, but in a few hours. He might not love you as much as I do yet, and will probably not appreciate being woken up at 4 a.m. Sandra tried to keep a level head and not get carried away by her friend's enthusiasm. It really could be anyone. Alex did not get a call. Instead, he got a visit to his house at 9 a.m. the next morning, just as he was settling down to breakfast. Shola, his housekeeper, came in after her, breathless, and he struggled to hide a smile because it was evident that the woman and physical exercise had become strangers. I am sorry, said Gabrielle. She said you were having breakfast, and I thought it was ridiculous pacing in your living room when I could do it here. He raised an eyebrow, amused, as Shala was still struggling to catch her breath and speak. True to her word, Gabrielle was pacing up and down in his dining room. I am sorry, sir. She just went right by me, and I could not stop her. It's fine, Shala. You can always let her through. Gabrielle, please sit. I know your morning started ages ago, but I'm not fully awake yet. Can Shala get you anything? Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting so as not to come too early, but you said I could ask for your help, and I didn't want to call or send a text. And I meant it. Exactly how much coffee have you had? Or sleep? Or food? Alex asked. She looked at him as if trying to understand what he was asking, and why that was even important. But seeing that he expected an answer, she sighed with impatience and frowned, trying to think. I lost count. None. And the pancakes. Now can I tell you why I'm here? He made a gesture with his hand, inviting her to speak. I found an email, and I think it's from my mother. Seeing that there was no reply, she resent it a few days later, and then again about 3 months after. Look! He read the email she had resent to her mobile. You said your friend could help. Send them to my email, and I'll forward them, said Alex, on the condition that you go home and sleep. You can eat here. Shala will make whatever you want. I'd offer my guest room, but that would violate your arm's length rule, so the driver will take you once I've watched you eat. She looked at him in horror, and seeing that he was serious, raised her hands in frustration and turned to Shala, who had finally managed to catch her breath and was waiting. Toast and butter. Thank you, Shala. Now can you send it? No. No. Eat first. I don't trust you. At least 70% of what is brought to you. Then I'll send it. After a struggle and a bargain, as Shala had been very generous and brought 6 pieces of toast to the table, which Gabrielle considered eating 70% of quite excessive, under her attentive gaze, he sent the emails to Nnamdi and called him, asking if he could please pinpoint the location as accurately as possible. This will take a while. I'll let you know as soon as he finds something. The car's ready to take you home. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it, and I apologize once again for storming in like this unannounced. My caffeine-packed brain was not thinking straight. Glad to be of help. I meant it when I offered. I'll see you later. Now get some rest. Gabrielle nodded and walked out. Once in the car, she dialed Deborah's number again to ask for an update. There was a tension between them that she did not think was healthy and could affect her father's recovery. So unless things got out of hand, she had opted to stay out of her way. Good morning, Deborah. I'm calling to ask how my father's doing. Good morning. I saw your call but could not pick up as the doctor was doing his rounds. He seems to be recovering as expected, and if things remain the same, he will be discharged tomorrow. It's best we limit his visitors so as not to tire him, at least for a while. I'm sure you understand. I'm glad to hear that he's doing better. Please extend my regards. I'll give him some space today and will pop round to see him tomorrow. I see. Please call me first. Goodbye. The call ended before she could respond. She looked at the phone and shook her head. At that moment, a call came in from Sandra, who had gone home after the night on her couch to shower and get ready for court. Any news on your dad? Yes. I just got off the phone with Deborah. He's stable, and hopefully can go home tomorrow. I was instructed not to visit, but I'll be ignoring that recommendation. The nerve of that woman. Just so as not to cause any more problems, I'll stay out of it. If not, I would have innocently paid your dad a visit just to aggravate her. I am sure it's fine for her daughter to be there, but not you, Sandra replied, upset for her friend. You know how protective she is of him. To be fair, it was my fault that he got stressed, not Antonia's. It's sad, though, the non-existent relationship we have. I am her sister, and she treats me with such hostility. I've tried to bring up various conversation topics on different occasions, but she's shown a minimal interest. Good thing I didn't accept the polite offer Deborah made to stay in the house when I first arrived in the country. Yes, but don't dwell on it. It's her loss. I think there's some sibling jealousy there. You came back with a name, were able to establish yourself here, and are very successful. I mean, presidents' wives, A-listers, the list is endless. Have worn your shoes and bags to events and proudly mentioned that fact to the press. Also, if she's treated you with even more hostility lately, it might be because a certain someone is showing interest in you. Alex, nothing is going on between us. Why? Did anything happen with them? Gabrielle asked. No, but a mutual acquaintance mentioned that she has a major crush on him. You might not realize it, but he's like the golden bachelor, the ultimate prize. Your father must have mentioned your friendship, and it's just one more thing to resent you for. What's your dad's room number? I'm sending him a get well soon gift basket. He should know you have caring and well brought up friends. Gabrielle laughed and gave her the information, and they said goodbye soon after. She thought she would be too nervous to sleep, but woke up a few hours later with no recollection of how she got to bed. She reached out for her phone to see if there was any news on her dad from Alex. Paul had called her, and she returned the call. He just wanted to know how she was doing. They chatted for a few minutes, and then she called Deborah again, receiving the same curt reply that she had been given earlier in the day. It felt like she was speaking to an answering machine, and she felt tempted to leave a message. She kept checking her email to see if her aunt had replied to her message, and double-checked to see if she had written the address correctly. Later in the day, Alex called her. I haven't heard back from Nnamdi, as one of his clients had a serious problem today, and he went with his team to solve it. I'll let you know as soon as he gets in touch. Thank you. Elise hasn't replied to my email either. I am packing as I hope to leave tomorrow. I'll know for sure as soon as they discharge my father. Not everyone checks their email every day. My mum, for example. I have to remind her from time to time to do so, and she normally has to reset her password because she forgets, Alex said, trying to be helpful. I'll make the necessary flight arrangements for tomorrow and await your confirmation. There was little more to be said after that, and they concluded the call. Gabrielle was nervous about what lay ahead, but certain that she had to find out. She busied herself sending emails to the directors of her brand, the store manager, and the factory supervisor. She had left various patterns that they could work on. For the umpteenth time, she refreshed her email just in case. Gabrielle closed her eyes and sat back on the plane, feeling nervous about what lay ahead. It felt like life had stood still and would do so until she was able to find her mother and understand why she left in such a manner. The only two people who had been able to tell her something about her had painted very different pictures. She had gone to see her father the previous evening and had found him sitting on the sofa in his study. It was still a shock to see the man who had always towered over her look so fragile and small. You're looking much better here than in that hospital bed. Here in my kingdom, without those nurses dictating my every move, I can do what I want. Not to mention the food. If what takes you there doesn't kill you, the food does the job. Gabrielle had laughed. The one image she had of her father was him eating. He enjoyed it, and Deborah, clever woman that she was, personally oversaw the preparation of all his meals. You are leaving for Benin? Yes, tomorrow. Now that you're back home and in good hands, I can take care of this. I hope you find what you're looking for. I stopped questioning things a long time ago. As for a while, nothing was as it appeared, and I needed to maintain my sanity. Life had to go on, and so the memory of your mother I locked away. Telling you the truth has brought a lot of things back. At my age and the point I've reached in my life, I have no wish to carry grudges. For some reason, she chose to leave. For the life of me, I can't understand why. Except for that last drastic decision that she made, I would have described her as one of the most considerate people I had ever come across. If you find her, the same way you were able to find excuses for me, try to do the same for her. Even if she doesn't show remorse. Maybe she went crazy, lost her mind. It happens, you know. It feels like I'm talking about a stranger. I've thought about one or two more people that you could see, and I wrote down their names and former addresses. I lost contact with everyone through the years, once I left and severed all ties with our past. They had said their goodbyes, and in the hall on her way out, she had met Deborah. The woman looked at her for a moment, and Gabrielle had murmured a goodbye as she walked past her. We tend to idolize people when we can't have them, or they are no longer with us, the older woman said. Turning around, she stood facing her father's former secretary. Andrew has barely said a word against your mother through the years. Even in the beginning, when it was evident that it was destroying him, he chose not to talk about it. You never asked me what I thought about what happened. I was there too. I am a material witness. I didn't know how to. We've never had a relationship in which we could talk. There seems to be a lack of freedom in this house. Like I am a stranger, or at best, a guest here. Always afraid to overstep boundaries or outstay my welcome. I don't even know exactly what your legal status is, Gabrielle replied, not taking her eyes off the other woman. Deborah had let out a bitter laugh as Gabrielle observed her. For so many years, neither of the two women had stopped to take a really good look at each other, and for the first time, Gabrielle had wondered what Deborah, the silent companion, had felt and bottled up over the years. Your father said he got married until death, and refused to even consider the possibility of there being grounds for an annulment. I guess in the modern world, I'd be considered his partner. Every time I looked at you, I was reminded of that fact. I still am. It feels like after 27 years, I'm still competing with a ghost. The last part she had almost whispered, and the young woman had strained to hear. Everyone thought your mother was a kind-hearted woman. I met her a number of times when she visited Andrew in the office, and at Christmas time. She always organized a party for the staff then. I think she was a very wicked woman. I think you all have her on a pedestal and refuse to accept the fact that she threw away all she had for an affair. Probably a sordid affair that ended soon after she left. How could she abandon a man that worked so hard to provide for his family, that obviously doted on her? Do you know how many employees have to suffer bosses with wandering eyes and eager hands? I heard so many stories when I worked as a secretary, but Andrew was not one of those men. There was a picture on his desk of the three of you. You both were his main priority, for whom he did everything. After it happened, I disposed of it. But on this search for the truth you're embarking on, I want you to have something very present. Your mother was not a good person. In the end, the truth always comes out, and we can only hide our real personalities for so long. I can't stop you from embarking on this fool's errand, but I do warn you, it will not end well for anyone. Those words had echoed in her mind during the night, and now on the plane. Deborah had not raised her voice. She had said everything in a very matter-of-fact way, and succeeded in planting that thought in her. For so long she had thought her mother dead, and had mourned her, thinking that circumstances beyond anyone's control had kept her away. But now she knew that the woman who had given birth to her had chosen to walk away. Paul had also visited her the previous evening, and she had relayed what had happened in her father's house. He had looked at her in grave silence for a moment. I think Deborah is a bitter woman, but I also think that she's not wrong. My father was not a faithful man. It wasn't a secret to us, so I imagine that it certainly wasn't for my mother. Growing up, there were lots of arguments, and I came upon my mother crying many a time. I will never forget that in one of those fights, my father, who had evidently had one drink too many, told her that if she didn't like the situation, then she was free to leave. My mother shouted, "You think I will leave for another woman to come and mistreat my children?" That question followed me through the years. I knew that she sacrificed her happiness for us. Her salary would not have been able to take care of 3 of us. And now that I can, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my mother. Years later, when my father spent months between the hospital and recovery after his car crash, all his mistresses fled, and it was my mother that stayed by his side and helped nurse him back to health. I'd never seen them relate to each other like that. No shouting, no tension in the air, and for the first time in a very long time, my mother was happy. So, although I do not like Deborah, she's right. Your mother chose her own happiness over yours. We all make choices and live with the consequences. So you think I shouldn't go? She had asked after listening to him. I think you shouldn't. I think that you might not find the answers that you're looking for, and maybe it's better to believe that she died all those years ago. It might be kinder for everyone. Gabrielle, I had no idea who your father was or who you were when I first saw you in church. I had moved to Lagos and had seen you at Mass, and I wanted to get to know you better. I've grown to respect you a lot. You are not a hypocrite with your values, and you're incredibly hardworking. I thought I'd do this under different circumstances, but you're leaving, and I want you to do so knowing you're coming back to something. He had knelt down and opened a box. It had been so unexpected that she had stood for a moment just looking at the ring. Paul, I don't know what to say. I'm not saying no. Really, I'm not. But I just can't think straight at the moment. It feels like time has stood still for me. Can I give you an answer when I get back? Yes, of course. I know you're overwhelmed now, but I want you to wear this so you know that no matter what happens, you have a life waiting for you here. Gabrielle looked at the ring. It should have been one of the happiest moments of her life, and it saddened her that she had not been able to enjoy it. Sandra, having promised to go with her, had come to the airport that morning, strangely, without a suitcase. And Sandra was not someone who travelled light. Alex had been speaking to the pilot and came over when he saw her. I am so sorry, but I just got informed that a court date for a very important case I'm working on has been pushed forward, Sandra had said. It's in 2 days' time. and I can't leave with you. My suitcase is in the car as my secretary called me 10 minutes ago. Gabrielle, can't you postpone? I don't want you to go alone. It's fine, really. You know I'm not afraid of new adventures. Hasn't my life been one? You go on and win your case, Gabrielle reassured her friend. What's that? Sandra had asked, looking at her ring. Paul proposed yesterday. Gabrielle held out her hand, and as expected, the other woman took a closer look at the ring. There was a silence from both of them. Alex's expression, Gabrielle could not interpret, but Sandra was not at all happy. Why the gloomy face? Wasn't that what you kept complaining about that he had not done, though I told you it was too soon? Now that he's stepped up, as you said he had to do over and over again, you're still not happy. Sandra, I don't understand you at all. I hope you didn't say yes, was the reply she got from her, as she hugged her, then insisted on going inside the plane with her, just to look around. The pilot announced that they were about to land in Benin City, and Gabrielle came back to her present reality, butterflies creating havoc in her stomach as she worried about what lay ahead. Maybe she was just setting herself up for disappointment, assuming that everyone had remained in the same place and was waiting for her to come back 27 years later in search of answers. To stay up to date with my latest episodes, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications.